Hi, this is Roland with the Blind Review Network. We'd like to give a special shout out to audiovault.net. That's audiovault, one word, .net. They have a library of over 4,000 movies and television episodes of audio description files available to the public. Membership is free. All they ask is a small donation to help them with keeping their servers open. So, if you would like to enjoy these movies the same way we do when we review them, go to audiovault.net, get a free membership, and start downloading today. This is a special shout out. They do not pay us for this recognition. Hi, everyone. This is Roland,
This is Mohammed.
and this is Blind Cult Movie Reviews, where this week we are reviewing Conan the Barbarian, the 1982 classic starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as the titular barbarian, with James Earl Jones as Thulsa Doom, Max von Sydow as King Osric, I believe that's how you spell it, Osric. Oh my goodness. You gotta love these old names. And Sandal Bergman as Valeria. I will spit it out at some point. And this is a movie which is based on the writings of Robert E. Howard, which Conan was originally a series of short stories that were published in science fiction and fantasy magazines in the 1930s and the 1940s. Over the years, it started to gain popularity, and in the 1950s and 1960s, all of his short stories were compiled together into a series of novels, which were continued on by Lynn Sprague de Camp after that. And new novels are being written even today. And for the course of media, Conan has seen many adaptations. First and foremost being the comic book series, first originally by Marvel, then Dynamite, then Dark Horse Comics, and back to Marvel, and back to Dynamite again. And comics are still being published today. And while Robert E. Howard is given credit as the stories in the movie being based on his original stories, there were a couple of stories which no screenwriter credit was given to Roy Thomas, who at the time was the writer, one of the writers of the Conan the Barbarian comic book series. But another surprise writer for this movie is the director John Milius. Uncredited is Edward Summer. And when one of his earliest previews as a movie writer, Oliver Stone. The same Oliver Stone who wrote and created Natural Born Killers. So, Mohammed, what did you think of the audio description on the Conan the Barbarian?
So I number one want to get out of the way. Conan the Barbarian is a great movie. I loved the movie. Um, the story was great. I really enjoyed, honestly, seeing Conan grow up and going through all of his trials and tribulations. He went through so much. As a kid, he watched his parents die, and he gets captured into slavery and all that. I will say the audio description towards the beginning is great. The voice clips of the narrator are snuck in between action scenes and dialogue. As you get through the movie, though, you start noticing the audio description doesn't have very good ducking. So, what ends up happening is music plays over the narrator, and you sometimes don't get very good audio description results due to that. And Conan the Barbarian suffered from that a bit. Um,
And just so that we can clarify to all of our listeners out there, we do get our sound files for our movies from audiovault.net. That's audiovault.net, audiovault, one word, .net. And most of those sound files come from the original DVD releases.
That's right. Yeah. And so finding a remaster is probably not happening anytime soon. However, that capture on up on Audio Vault is 100% as crisp as you can get.
Well, the movie starts off with Conan as a child. His father is a smith, and he sits there and he's teaching Conan about the strength of steel.
I like this scene. It's just Conan sitting there as a kid, and his dad is like, "You can't trust no man. You cannot trust any creature, but this steel you can trust."
And then the village is attacked by the forces of an evil warlord, a warlord by the name of Thulsadun, played by James Earl Jones in a role which is not common for him. He's known for doing more contemporary roles at this time and not very well known for doing science fiction or fantasy. At this point, the only sci fi fantasy he had done was the voice to Darth Vader in the Star Wars movies. In specific, in this case, it was Star Wars.
So he's stepping out of his usual comfort zone and kind of doing this other role. Was this role he did after Star Wars or before?
It was after. Star Wars was 1976 or 77,
Mm.
and Conan was 1982.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, they sit there, they kill his father and his mother in front of him, and they take him captive as a slave and train him to be a warlord. And as he gets older, they sit there and they specifically ask Conan, "What is important?" And Conan answers, "To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women." Dude, was he MAGA or what?
Dude was ready to take out anyone. He's like, I've been through so much. I'll take down anyone who stands ahead of me.
And he did.
Yeah, dude, the scene at the beginning where he's in the gladiator pit, that's intense.
Yes. And he does eventually escape.
Yeah, it was. I always thought it was weird because the guy who freed him and seemed strangely emotionally attached to Conan in some way when he freed him. But then he just tells him go, and Conan doesn't really know what to do with his freedom, and he just runs.
Well, you have to remember, and this is one of the things which I love about this movie so much, what it absorbs from the original stories by Robert E. Howard is what life would be like. Because if you think about it, Conan was sold into slavery. He was made to fight in gladiatorial pits. He had a sense of being put upon him by the guy who was in charge of the gladiators, the warlords who were in the pit. And then he's telling him, "You're free." It's like he's a pet. You know,
That's true. Yeah.
they to keep him in line, they had him submissive like a junkyard dog. And it's very visceral about what his life is like then. Because you just don't, in this day and age, you can't imagine what it would be like to live like that.
Not at all. Yeah.
And if you do know, I am so sorry for you. And whoever did it to you needs to burn in hell.
Straight up. Yeah. This is might sound a little shallow, but I cannot live without my washer machine.
Dude, I'm even more shallow. I can't live without toilet paper. Enough said there.
Yeah.
Well, we have a very naive Conan who's out in the wild on his own for the first time in his life. And he meets a woman. Not just any woman, a woman who's quick to lie with him.
It's a cat lady. Yeah, I remember the cat lady.
Yes, a witch cat lady.
What?
And then Conan learns a new meaning for the word for the phrase cat scratch fever.
She tells him his prophecy or like the future or something and attacks him and he has to fend her off and get out of that cabin.
Throws her into the bonfire that's in the center of the tent. When she bursts into flame and shoots out of the fire like a comet.
And she just turns into a cackling fireball and flies away.
But Conan learns at some point later in his life he will become a king and a master of his own kingdom. Well, over time, Conan sits there and he becomes a thief. And he basically wants to get his revenge on Thulsa Doom.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so, and he ends up over time um, gaining a couple of allies. There's Sabata, who is an archer and a thief, and Valeria, fierce warrior woman, matches Conan in skill and courage, and catches his eye.
Oh yeah, Conan's all over her. He's all about her.
But eventually, they decide that they're going to get one over on Thulsa Doom, and they're going to steal a gem from him.
That's when they go to that tall castle tower and try to, and like they pretty much wreck everyone in there.
Including a giant, I guess you could call it a boa. Yeah, yeah, a giant boa constrictor.
Yeah, just a giant snake. They wreck it, and it. I think it turns into the jewel, if I remember
Yes,
correctly. Yeah, they take that, run off with it, and Thulsa Doom is pissed off.
yes. And at that point, if I remember correctly, this is where Thulsa Doom and his cronies come after him.
Yeah, they get him, they capture him.
Well, there's a big fight. Oh, wait, no, I take that back. I'm sorry. We need to back up a bit. Conan's thirst for revenge gets the best of him. He loves Valeria. She begs him not to go after Thulsa Doom. But Conan has to get his revenge. So he goes after Thulsa Doom, and when he gets there, he can't kill him. He gets captured and he's crucified in the desert. Well, as he's crucified in the desert, wizard comes across him, who, with the help of Conan's allies, they get him down and they bring him back to health. Then Thulsa Doom comes after him after learning that he got away. And when they find out that they're not going to win the battle and they try to escape, Thulsa Doom draws a snake from his quiver, turns it into an arrow, tells it to seek, and it strikes Valeria in the back. Valeria, who had said she would give up anything, including her life, if the gods would save Conan's life. And thus she has given her life to him. And at this point, Conan has had enough. He leaves everybody and everything and shows up at Thulsa Doom's temple as he's holding service. And Thulsa Doom's ego got the better of him, because he looks at Conan with no recognition in his eye at all. And he basically says, I am the most important thing in your life. I'm the one who gave you that thirst for revenge, that desire that burns in your heart. You might as well look at me and call me father.
Right as he says that, Conan doesn't even think. He just takes his sword out and slices the guy's head clean off. Bounces down the stairs of the little stage he's on, and he just stands up in victory.
And then, in an act of symbolism, he takes a censer, swings it over his head, and throws it out into the temple. A stone temple which miraculously burns to the ground. Never understood that.
That is interesting, huh? Hey, movie magic.
And then we get the wizard giving some narration about his lord, Conan. He would go on and he would have further adventures. And in time, he'd find his kingdom. And he would become king. But that is a story for
Another
time.
day.
I'm telling you, Mo, this movie, it when I saw this movie in the theaters in 1982, again, a grindhouse setting, and it was actually, we didn't get it in our hometown until like the second or third week of release.
Hmm.
But I was in such awe of this movie because I was the epitome of what you would call a nerd back then. I read comic books like crazy. I was smart enough to where I never had homework and I never carried school books in my backpack. I always had about 50 comic books in my backpack. That way I'd always have something different to read no matter where I went. But I had read the Conan comic books. I had read the Conan magazine. I had read the Conan novels. Robert E. Howard and L. Sprague de Camp. I was a huge, huge fan of the artist of those novels. Oh, geez, you know, Frank Frazetta. I, you know, I was a nerd and a half, and I geeked out because everything I wanted from a Conan movie, this delivered. I wanted that grip. I wanted that visceral energy. Wanted that hint of mysticism. Not necessarily to say that magic is real, but it's a possibility. You know, it
I feel
it
like it
leaves me.
really captured all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just wow. That's all I can say. Wow. And in those days, in the 70s and the 80s, anytime you had original material that was adapted for the screen, it's not like today where you would get the full essence in most cases, because just now the technology is catching up. They use the technology for practical effects of 1982 to bring that story to life. This movie inspired so many imitators and so many other producers and writers and directors who wanted to jump on that sword and sorcery bandwagon, because Conan the Barbarian proved that there was a market for that. Granted, a lot of the follow up contemporaries didn't put the same amount of effort into their stories, but still, even to this day, here in 2026, you still have Conan in popular media. Like I said, there are still novels being written, still comic books being released. The old comic books are being re released in graphic novel form. There was a TV show, there was a movie reboot with Jason Momoa. They've just announced that there's going to be a King Conan movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as King Conan.
Which is a perfect follow up to his role as the governor, the governator.
Well, it's much better than as the Terminator in Dark Fate.
Well, I'm excited to see King Conan. Honestly, I've seen a couple of the Conan movies already, and I am a big, big fan.
I'm still just waiting on one very specific question to be answered. Who is going to play the son of Conan in that movie? Because you got to remember, Arnold does have one son who is an actor, and he kind of looks like him.
Can you imagine if they actually star his son as that role? That would be awesome. I want to see that.
Hey, it can't be any different than having Wyatt Russell play his dad's Kurt's own younger self, as in the Monarch TV series.
Oh yeah, you're right, huh?
Yes,
Man. Either way, I'm excited. When is King Conan expected to drop? Was there a release date announced?
there was no release date. It was at the Arnold Fest where it was announced.
Oh, well, all right. Yeah. So, hey, something to look forward to, guys.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that has been Conan the Barbarian. We ask that you like and subscribe. Get your friends, let them know about what we're doing, and join us as we finish off 80s Arnie, or Arnold 80s, however you want to put it, with Conan the Destroyer next time.
This has been Blind Cult Movies of the Blind Review Network. I'm Mohammed,
I'm Roland.
and we thank you for watching. See you next time.
See you next time.